You guys are gonna love this video. I'm gonna show you how to make the perfect Korean barbecue feast at home. Obviously, if you don't have like a proper grill like they use in those Korean barbecue restaurants, texturally it might be a little different. You could use electric grills, but honestly I'm not a fan of the sear that they give the meat, so I rather do things in cast iron pans when it comes to cooking down the meat. First thing we're gonna be doing is the japchae, but it's not gonna be all in order because this is exactly like that boodle fight video where we did all the dishes at the same time, just to make sure that we do it in a right amount of time that you guys can do at home as well. So I have some Korean vermicelli noodles. What I love about this is that literally it's just sweet potato starch and water. So I'm gonna get maybe half of it only, and that goes into some boiling water. While that cooks down, it's gonna take about 7 to 8 minutes to cook. We're gonna go ahead and prep some vegetables that we need for our japchae. So very simple, I've got white onion, I've got some carrots, which we're just gonna julienne. Then some shiitake mushrooms. Go ahead and cut off the stem. So I'm gonna slice up my shiitake mushrooms. And for our veg prep, that is pretty much all we need. You could add some spinach to it as well. I'm just gonna keep it very simple. Maybe add a couple of green onions or scallions to the mix. I got one piece of ribeye here, which I'm just gonna slice. That gets tossed with a little bit of our japchae sauce. So usually a japchae sauce has some soy sauce, some sugar, some sesame oil, or you can buy the pre-made japchae sauce. Right now I have the Ajuma japchae sauce. I put a little bit with my ribeye and toss that together. All my sauces, paste, and the noodles that I'm using today all are distributed by Next Straight Philippines. It's a really cool company because they're kind of like the official distributor of most Korean products in the Philippines, and the best ones in my opinion. So I'm just gonna go ahead and keep this to the side. I have 2 pans on, a little bit of oil in both. I'm gonna start by sweating out the white onions. We don't wanna caramelize these, we just wanna get them nice and soft. Once your noodles are cooked down properly like this, all we gotta do is strain it and run it under some cold water. Once they're strained, very important, make sure to cut them in half and then place all that into another pan. Our onions have now softened up a little bit. We're gonna go ahead and add our leeks just for a little bit. Again, we don't want these to cook too much. We wanna keep them quite, raw, and wanna keep them quite acidic. This goes in the same pan with the noodles. Next, our carrots. Same exact thing, we're not looking to cook them down until they're too soft. We wanna keep some of that crunch. That goes with the noodles as well. Final step, our mushrooms and our sliced beef. While that's finishing up, I'm gonna prep the other dish that we'll be making, which is kind of like a stew. The stew is called, I don't know how to pronounce this. I think it's doenjang. So there's jjigae. Jjigae usually means stew in Korean, like kimchi jjigae and everything. They have a doenjang jjigae. Doenjang is basically like a deeper miso. It's much more flavorful and thicker than miso. That's why I like to use it a lot in different cooking applications. And in Korea, it's used a lot in stews, as a sauce. And it's basically something that's mixed usually with gochujang, and that together makes samgyupsal, which is one of the most popular dips for Korean barbecue wraps. For the stew, very simple. Usually they use like cabbage and stuff like that, but we're gonna keep it very clean. Just 1 onion. I've got a potato. You can cube that up further if you want to. And then finally, some tofu. So a lot of people here will add things like cabbage, squash. You can really add whatever you want. Here I'm just doing a very, very simple version. All you gotta do now is add everything together. I'm gonna start with just the onions and the potatoes. I'm gonna boil that with some water, and then I'm gonna flavor it with the doenjang, and then I'm gonna add the tofu to it later. Once our beef has nice color, then we can go ahead and add that to the bowl with the noodles. Mix all this together. We're then gonna transfer the mix into our bowl here. Once everything's in the bowl, just go ahead and add in our sauce. And then we're gonna use this beautiful toasted sesame oil, and then some sesame seeds. Ideally, I'd have gloves so you can do this by hand, but we're just gonna do it very slowly with some thongs. Let's try our japchae, see if we need to make any changes. That's perfect. Okay, we're gonna keep this to the side. All right, so now that I've got a little bit of bubbles happening, I'm gonna start with 1 heaped tablespoon of doenjang. This is very salty, so make sure you put only a little bit first and then see if you need to add more after. So basically it's like kind of like a miso broth, but just like a deeper, richer miso broth. And that goes in with the tofu. Just wait for that to get to a boil and thicken out a little bit. Next, we're gonna work on our meats. So for the beef, I got a mix of ribeye, and then you can use some short ribs or anything with like bones on it. It's really up to you what you like to use at home. I like using ribeye and skirt mostly when I'm making some Korean barbecue. So nice slices of beef. These are quite thick the way I like it. You can get very thinly shaved ones as well, but this for me is kind of like the perfect thickness because I still like feeling like I'm eating almost a steak in terms of how thick I want this to be. That goes into the bowl with 1 ingredient you've probably seen me use so many times, gochujang. My absolute favorite. Take a nice heaped tablespoon of that, put it with the meat, and then we're gonna go ahead and add in a little bit of that toasted sesame seed because it's just so good. And then mix all that together. The second meat we're gonna be using is some pork, and this is already cut for samgyupsal. So this we're not actually gonna touch, and we're not gonna add anything to it. So one of my favorite sides that the Korean restaurants serve is kind of like this very thinly sliced scallion. So the scallions are usually mixed in with some vinegar, some red pepper flakes, and it's literally just served on its own, maybe a little bit of garlic in there as well, so it's really like pungent and spicy and it's delicious. The key here is to really thinly slice your scallions and then just mix them with the sauce. So we're gonna go ahead and use both a little bit of the white and a little bit of the green of the scallions. And I'm just gonna cut this as thinly as possible. All that goes into a big bowl. And here the sauce that we're gonna use that's also brought in by Next Trade is the hot, we call it the hot Korean sauce. It's kind of sweet and spicy and intense, which is exactly what I wanted. So that goes with our scallions, and then we just toss all that together. Because the sauce is quite pungent already, I actually don't think we need to add some grated garlic in there. Give that a taste. That's actually really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and just keep this to the side. You can do the exact same thing with some bean sprouts, some cucumbers. It's really up to you. Like the cucumbers, very simple, same thing. We're gonna slice them up. Same thing, we're gonna go ahead and toss it with our Korean hot sauce. So this one has yuzu also in it, so that's where that acidity is coming from. Just a little bit, sesame oil, and then just mix everything together. Crunchy, refreshing, and has that little aftertaste of like sweetness and spiciness, which is really nice. Okay, time for the star of the show, the meat. So if you were to do this in a grill, you wouldn't need kind of oil or fat, but here, because we are doing it on a cast iron pan, we need to add a little bit of oil on the cast iron pan, wait for it to get hot. What's really key here is if you notice when they cook it on a grill is that nothing is really clumped together. Everything has its own individual space. So you have to do that same thing in the pan. Give the meat some breathing room. Don't clump it up or else it'll become like a gochujang salpicao. So one by one, give it a couple of minutes per side, and then we're gonna go ahead and twist it to the other side. Add all that sauce and fat back in. That is basically good to go. Now for the samgyupsal. We don't want our pan to be too hot. Right now it is too hot, so we'll wait for that to cool down a little bit. Then we're gonna take our strips of pork and just place them onto the pan. Now this is not bacon. We don't want it to get it crispy, so it'll be a fairly quick cook. You just want slightly browned. Again, nothing too cooked or crispy. And usually when you cook this in a grill, it's true that you'll get a little less fat because that fat will kind of drip off the grill. But honestly, for me, it's just gonna add a bit more flavor to cook it with its fat. So again, guys, everything today, all these sauces, were made from products that are imported by Next Trade Philippines. They import some of the best Korean products in the market today here. We use the toasted sesame oil. We use the Korean hot sauce with yuzu, the japchae noodle sauce, the samjang, which we're going to use as the dipping sauce, the gochujang, obviously one of my favorites, and then the doenjang for our stew happening here, which is actually almost done. And then finally, the sweet potato noodles were also from them. They're available in any supermarket nationwide, so they'll be very easy for you to find. Last thing we want to do is transfer our soup into our bowl. That looks absolutely just pure and delicious and very clean. Now that everything's ready, we're gonna organize this chaos because a lot has happened. Clean it up, plate it up, and you guys will see it'll be a beautiful meal. This is basically everything we just cooked. It looks like a lot, but it's a feast that will make anyone happy that walks into your room. Let's go ahead and just try the beef. So basically very simple. I'm gonna use the samjang. So I like to do it like this by spreading a little bit on my leaf, piece of beef. And then I love these chopped up green onions. It adds just so much like spice to the whole thing. But just like this, stuff in your mouth. That's solid. Let's try one of the pieces of pork. Same thing, beautiful samjang. This time I'm gonna have it with a little bit of cucumber. Absolutely delicious. Let's try the soup. Really nice and just that kind of like soybean paste really just comes through, but very subtly. And then finally, our japchae. This is one of my favorite dishes. Perfect. It's not exactly authentically Korean, but it'll really hit that craving and satisfy it properly. And up to you how you want to mix and match things. I have some kimchi here if you want to use it. Use any of the sauces. Honestly, all these sauces would be great as just dipping sauces. These are not sauces only that you're going to use during the cooking. You can also use them just to dip your meats into there. So I'm gonna have fun just kind of making those combinations. And nothing here would be complete without some soju. This is the original. So this is 16.9% alcohol. If you guys haven't checked out our soju video with Mr. Bulbul, please make sure to check that one out. Original. I'm gonna taste them first, like a fine wine. That's really smooth. The next one I'm gonna try is the peach variant. So these are slightly easier to drink and they're slightly lower in alcohol also. Hey, I could drink that and get really up. That's tasty. Next one we have is the blue. Normal that I'm already heating up. This one's almost candy-like. The peach one really had that peach flavor. The blue is like almost like a candy. And then this, they were saying that this is the first one in the Philippines. It's tok soda. So it's only 5%. So that's like a beer, basically. And it's a sparkling soju. Ooh, foamy. Well, this is 5%. I can drink this. Yum. That's refreshing. That's like fruity, tropical, some grapefruit, passion fruit, pineapple. I feel like I'm drinking like a Sprite, which makes this very dangerous because you could probably drink a lot of these. So if you're gonna make this feast at home, it's not complete without some soju. These are all available in 7-Eleven, I believe, and you can get them in all major supermarkets. So happy eating, happy drinking. Peace out.